thanks a lot for tuning in today. This is CryptoVatsik, and before we get started, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button to support this channel. And if you find the content helpful, please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future updates. As always, this is not financial advice and are my opinions only. All right, let's get into it. All right, so this is just a tweet I shared out last night on a trade idea that I had that basically said that if we got down to this green area that I'd be buying and going long. So I had made this idea based on a few different reasons. One being that really we had this overall range EQ. So that was the first area of confluence. Second being it was a nice area on the fib level, just down to the 618. And then the other one was that we had that major break it in market structure back here in the yellow circle. So that was basically that marked out our newer high to break out to make this move that we saw. And then, I added a little trend line in here as well. So just kind of, lined up really well with this area. And it had a clear invalidation, right? So basically below this low would be a lower low. And so that's basically the trade is invalidated at that point. So we just got to keep an eye on it. And I will take this trade. So what we're seeing now, though, at this point is I woke up this morning and we have almost reached that area. So it was a pretty strong dump overnight, and we haven't quite touched it. We just wicked right to the EQ right now. So maybe on a lower time frame, yeah, it doesn't look great, right? So I still think we have a little bit further to go. But really the idea is that I will go long in here and I'll have a clear invalidation, and this is assuming that this range EQ is going to be held, right? So we can deviate below this range EQ, maybe come touch this trend line sort of thing, touch the 618 area, and then, I want a clean flip back to recover this level. And then I would expect to head up to the range high again. And the reason why I picked this level here as my invalidation was a few reasons. So really one is that you'd be making a lower low from this upward trend, right? So this is a bullish trend right now that we got off of our bottom over here, higher low, higher low, higher low. And so I want to see another higher low, right? And so I want to see us start to build out that structure and that strength that we can get to pressure the upper band of this range, to give some pressure to that area so that we can start to look at taking out some previous highs. So if we don't get that and we in fact retest this level or we get a lower low, then not only that, but this would be if you take the fib from this move here, right, to the top, that would be a 100% correction, right, which would be basically invalidating this move as another wave or another impulse wave, which it really isn't an impulse wave. We are just ranging within this area. It's a range-bound market, and so I just don't want to see 100% retracement of this bottom to this top. So that's fine. It's about a 2% risk trade that I will take. But don't get the wrong idea, right? I will easily challenge my bias if I see something like that happen, right? So if we zoom out, and you have to stay flexible and be able to, first of all, identify that you have a bias, but second thing is be able to flip it, right? And so oftentimes in bear markets, you see people thinking it's just constantly going to go down, and then they have a hard time transitioning to bull market and believing that actually the trend is reversed. So, we're still in a downtrend and we're struggling to get up. So if I see weakness in the market and I get stopped out, okay, I take this trade, I get stopped out. So say we kind of hug, I don't think we'll break down immediately, but say we start to like hug this trend line and this EQ kind of thing. Probably won't happen for that long, but say get something like this, right? And then obviously drop, I get invalidated. Then I'm going to quickly switch my bias to the downside, and zooming out on a higher time frame, I'm going to be, let me just clean this up. I'm going to be targeting this low, right? And then ultimately these lows, right? And so you need to understand that if you do have a bias, that you can easily be wrong, and that's fine. right? So just be objective and understand that this might not be the bottom, right? So I'm fine with that. Obviously, you know, it's more exciting when you get some volatility, but we're just range bound. We're struggling to get out of this area, and you know, there's no reason to assume a trend reversal before it happens. And I mean, just look at what's happening, right? So the same thing's happening over and over. Price is fractal. We dump, we range, and then we dump, right? And then this is just on a bit longer time frame that we're just ranging, and then you'd have to assume potentially another dump, right? So we're sweeping supply. Okay, we're sweeping supply here. We're coming up like this. Okay, we're sweeping supply, dump, right? Over here, yeah, sweeping the supply, dump, sweeping supply, dump. Over here, sweep supply, dumping. So if we start to get this kind of price action, this would really tell me there's a lot of weakness in the market, and I'd start to be any kind of pump up, I'd be shorting at that point, right? And that's given that what I just said previously. If I get invalidated on this lower time frame trade, then I will start to look to find shorts. And the other thing too is this demand over here, right? So I'm just getting the feeling that this demand with these lows is getting exhausted, right? We've tested them 1, 2, 3, you know, at least 4 or 5 times. We've tested this. It's getting exhausted. And in my opinion, I think it's getting exhausted. So unless we see a push up soon, then I don't see this demand being strong enough to hold. And you know, maybe we get a deviation below kind of thing like that, and then, you know, something like that. But we'd want to see on there. Let's see what RSI is doing. So maybe, yeah, you could say on a weekly, maybe, you know, some sort of divergence. So you make a lower low with potentially a higher low, something like that, right? Or RSI does this, and then you get your dump, and then if you get a bounce, then yeah, you could potentially say we're getting a divergence in there, which is fine. But again, these are just all assumptions until we see some further price action develop. And zooming out, you know, we're putting this area to the test right there, right? That bullish consolidation, we're struggling to get out of that resistance, which was our previous all-time high at 20,000. That's obviously our key area that I think this is creating that bounce from, right? So this was a previous range that we had worked with back here in November of 2020. And so, you know, you lose that, there's just not enough for me to believe we'll bottom with these candles here. There's not enough conviction for myself to say that this is where a bottom will just be in this kind of no man's land. So we could see a temporarily a bounce kind of thing, but really if we lose this level, I think we are going back to that major area around, what is it, 11,000 here. We'll just flip over to Bitcoin open interest as well, which I always like to check in on. Not really showing any signs of topping out just yet. So basically, open interest is just basically the long positions being taken on Bitcoin USD. Okay, and so we've seen the peaks previously in history have marked our bottoms, and we had a sharp reversal down on open interest, right? Which means less people are taking longs, more people are either just starting to sell or just less people are starting to accumulate kind of thing. And so we've seen this massive spike in open interest. So people have, you know, record numbers of accumulation during this bear market, right? But it hasn't peaked yet, right? We haven't got that steep decline. And I've shared this on my Twitter in previous videos lots, where I think we'll have kind of one more push up. And that doesn't just mean that it's going to be, you know, straight vertical up only once open interest starts to decline. I mean, these bottoms here on the BTC price took time, right, to develop, right? So we might have technically bottomed, but we entered accumulation area, and price was kind of bouncing around, but at least it didn't break that low. And so that's, I think, just all we have is history to work with is data, right? So I think we'll get something similar. We'll have a peak in the near future. I won't put a date on it, but in the near future, we will have our peak and we'll have our bottom set, and then we'll have our accumulation. And then BTC will, kind of lead the way. It'll have its run kind of thing. And then once BTC cools off, that's, really what we've seen is when we get that alt season. Okay. Then let's just check in on the, just check in on the Bitcoin log chart. So I had shared this as well many times. I'm sure you've seen countless charts that look like this, that are screaming all-time highs and screaming bullish. And I like to check in on this chart because for a couple of reasons, right? So basically, obviously, we've got our tops, right, of our bull markets, and we've got our bottoms marked out here, right? And so every time we had our bottom set, these green rectangles here, right, is basically our gradual area of bullish accumulation. Okay, distribution near the top, accumulation near the bottom, and you can just see that the distribution takes way shorter amount of time, right? So it's basically just, oh, you get like one chance to sell the top kind of thing, and then your bear market. So then you look at accumulation, and it really takes time for it to charge up. It really takes time for people to get trust back in the market, for these risk assets and start to accumulate for the long term. And we have seen those record numbers in this bear market of people accumulating just based off that previous open interest chart. And there's a lot of other data out there as well that you can look up on these numbers. But anyways, the point being is that I think we will have, a long period of accumulation where we'll eventually bottom somewhere in here, and we will get basically kind of a flatline market. Who knows? Maybe we get a nice big bear market rally, up to 30,000, whatever. But there'll still be pressure to the downside. There'll still be people shorting it. There'll still be PPSD from the bear market. People taking profit kind of thing. So I figured that we'll hover in this green box for some time. Who knows? Take it with a grain of salt. Could be could be 6 months, 8 months, could be a year, could be a year and a half. So we just got to stay objective and keep that in mind. Just quickly checking on Ethereum here. Okay. So yeah, similar story with Ethereum, right? We got this low, and I was hoping somewhere in here we'd be making our higher low. But it's same story with Ethereum as Bitcoin, right? I mean, we are coming up into supply, we're getting dumped on, and if I expected us to push any higher, we need to start pushing up quite soon. And I thought this was even the bearish scenario. I thought we'd even at least come back up to this previous origin of this breakdown and possibly test this trend line again and then dump. But we're not even seeing that right now. I mean, this is just falling over on itself. Yeah, we've been testing this key area for some time now, right? Everyone's been watching that area in Ethereum. And we're starting to exhaust this. It's weakening, in my opinion, and it won't take much to break it. And if we break it, then all we got left is this low, so which has been tested as well twice over here. So again, like I'm saying, just you don't want to hover too long around support. It'll just start to weaken it, and the demand starts getting eaten up, right? That liquidity gets eaten up, and it's people aren't seeing it reverse, and buyers become sellers. I guess that's it for this one. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you found it helpful, and I'll keep updating this as much as I can throughout the week, and have a good weekend, everyone. See you in the next one.